Super Meat Boy is a fast-paced, action-packed, tough-as-nails, insanely fun platformer made by Ed McMillan and Tommy Ruffins. Tofu Boy is a fast-paced, clunky, tedious, boring platformer ripoff made by the garbage company PETA. I'm sure you're asking yourselves right now, can it really be that bad? And yes it can. If you've seen my Kitten Squad video, you'll know that I'm no stranger to playing these garbage PETA games. And I've also played through the entire main story of Super Meat Boy, so believe me when I say that this is not a flattering parody either. Tofu Boy was published on December 1st, 2010, less than a month and a half from when Super Meat Boy was officially published. I don't even have to say this, but this is an obvious parody of Super Meat Boy. They even went as far to put Team Tofu Presents in the main menu to mock Team Meat. In fact, the level selector is a replica of Newgrounds' version of Meat Boy. Before we talk about the game itself, I really want to just mention how just god-awful the website that I played the game on is. The art on the side is terrible. It looks so ugly. Meat Boy just looks bad, nothing specifically to say, he's just poorly drawn. Tofu Boy looks like he's just shit himself, and Bandage Girl is a thing from my nightmares. PETA also gave the characters the dumbest bios ever. If you want, you can pause and read, but I'll give you the rundown real quick. Tofu Boy is a Chad, Meat Boy is a Kyle who punches holes in drywall, Bandage Girl is a sexy vegetarian, and Dr. Fetus, well, this bio is actually accurate. There's also a bunch of tips that auto-scroll at the bottom of the page that has nothing to do with the game, but it gives reasons to stop eating meat and just some of the dumbest lines I've ever seen, like vegetarians make better lovers and LOL at Meat Boy's bad breath. I really just don't understand what PETA's thought process is. Ever. Alright, let's finally get into the game. Let's start with the story. In Super Meat Boy, the story is Meat Boy and Bandage Girl love each other, but Dr. Fetus hates Meat Boy, so he beats him up and kidnaps Bandage Girl. And then Meat Boy goes out to save her. But in Tofu Boy, Bandage Girl leaves Meat Boy for Tofu Boy, and the two fall in love. Meat Boy then kidnaps Bandage Girl, and Tofu Boy has to save her from Meat Boy's bloody rage. And then you start the game. Unfortunately. The in-game design is honestly just a disaster on the eyes. It's mostly just the backgrounds. They don't even try to stylize it at the very least. There's a slaughterhouse in the background that looks like it was supposed to be drawn for something else, but they just put it in the background and called it good. So you know how in Meat Boy, Bandage Girl constantly calls for help? Well, in this game, she's just continually screaming. And the last thing I'll say on the aesthetics is how just unappealing the color of the trail that Tofu Boy leaves behind is. Alright, now let's get into the gameplay. It has the same controls as Meat Boy. You run, jump, wall jump, but it doesn't have a run button, which means there's only one speed, and that speed is very fast. You're essentially running all the time. One just tap of the keyboard and he goes flying. It is kind of hard to control and just not fun at all. The first world is called the Slaughterhouse. It's not hard at all. It has pretty much everything you'll see in a basic Super Meat Boy level. You got your saw blades, your saw blades shooting from walls, your bandages you can collect, all that good stuff. The only unique obstacle that I noticed in this game is fires, and that's just another thing to run into. It could just be a saw blade, really. And I want to point out, on the auto-scroll level, the background doesn't move. They couldn't even be bothered to draw more of the slaughterhouse for when the screen goes up. How lazy is that? The next world is called Golden Arches, which is an obvious parody of McDonald's. And all the levels have the same background again that still doesn't move on the auto-scroll levels. These levels introduce blocks that disintegrate when you touch them, and the worst level I have ever played in my entire video game career. Okay, so the auto-scroll is so ungodly fast. Even when you time a jump perfectly and you're doing the things you're supposed to do, sometimes Tofu Boy is hardly even on frame, and there's no wiggle room at all in this. You miss one jump and you are done. If you thought Tofu Boy was hard to control before, oh my god, does he get much worse here. So the more I played this level, the more I realized how unresponsive some of the jumps are. Like in Super Meat Boy, yeah, I die a lot most of the time, if not all of the time. Those deaths feel like my fault, like I missed this timing, I missed this jump, what have you. In this game, sometimes it feels like he just doesn't jump. He just doesn't do what you say, making this just so aggravating. So feel free to say skill issue all you want. I don't even care. This level is straight garbage. Whatever. And then we entered the Bacon Factory. And the Bacon Factory is really just another version of the Slaughterhouse, but more specific, which just really shows you how uncreative PETA is when it comes to these games. The first level, again, is kind of whatever, but the next level is another nightmare similar to that McDonald's auto-scroll level. If you could walk slower, this really wouldn't be that bad, but since every touch of the keyboard just sends Tofu Boy flying in any direction, it makes this so freaking hard. But this is the last level in the game, so what happens when you win? What? Okay, so PETA has clearly been trying to paint Meat Boy as the bad guy, trying to convince you to never eat meat again. And then we find out that Dr. Fetus has been drugging Meat Boy, making Meat Boy a victim, making all of Meat Boy's crimes or just him not being well behaved completely irrelevant thanks to Dr. Fetus. And there's no reason to believe that Meat Boy is a bad guy without that. So literally, this just victimizes Meat Boy. I feel bad for him now. He lost the love of his life because of this fucking fetus right here. So, what was PETA's motive here? Why did they do this? How did they end the game like this? It blows my mind with how they even fuck up their original message of don't eat meat. In the end, they couldn't even save that. So yeah, the final words undermine everything, and Tofu Boy is nothing more than a homewrecker at this point. But there is one more stage that is called the bandage bonus. Presumably, you would unlock this when collecting every single bandage, but I collected every single bandage and it just didn't unlock for me. I mean, I'm content with that. It means I have to play the game less, but I did collect those bandages for nothing. So now you might be wondering, what was Team Meat's response to all this? Did they go vegan? Did they pull the game off the shelves? Did they lose sales? Were they miserable? What happened? They added a character called Tofu Boy to the game, who is the all-around worst character. He has the lowest speed and jumping height of all the characters among some other handicaps and has 0 upsides. So why did PETA make Tofu Boy? Did they get what they wanted out of it? If not, did they learn any lessons? I don't know. It's pretty good.